I'm Stuart Rosenthal with the Beacon Newspapers, and I'm here today with Jack York from It's Never Too Late. And I should just point out for people who are watching that 2 is the number 2, and it's never too late. Right.
People don't know that.
Yes, and make
You're already a full-fledged journalist.
All right, glad to help. So tell us something about It's Never Too Late.
Sure, It's Never Too Late. We've been around for 20 years. My brother and a friend of mine and I started. Actually, the whole thing happened with a friend of mine had the idea to donate some computers to a local nursing home in Southern California, and never thinking of it as a business, we just did the donation, and it was very cool to see the outcomes. And then I was living the good life in the Silicon Valley, and just had a really somewhat of a desire to do something that had a little bit more meaning to it, and just saw what happened with these elders, but also realized a traditional computer was going to be so difficult for people, especially folks with any kind of cognitive decline, that it needed to be a little bit different. So we jumped off the cliff 20 years ago and started It's Never Too Late, and spent about 10 years just kind of finding our way. And now here in 2019, we're delighted to have about 3,000 communities in the U.S. and Canada with our technology, and just seeing stereotypes broken up every day of what people can or can't do using engagement technology.
So I did take a look at your website, and I understand what you do is you use different kinds of adaptive technologies to help people who might have physical difficulties and who might have mental difficulties to be able to use computers, make them more simple. So tell us, what are some of the things you do that make it so usable?
Right. Well, it's a lot of it has nothing to do with aging. I think a lot of times people want to, with the best of intentions, they put people into boxes of, oh, if you're old, here is what's going to be relevant. At the end of the day, we all have a human thirst to stay connected and engaged. And so what we try to do is just get wherever that person is physically or cognitively, be able to have content available through a touchscreen interface that is relevant for them. Relevant for them both in terms of the content, but also in terms of where they are cognitively. And so say it was your father or your grandfather that was at a community that had our system. You as the son, from your computer at home, you could help build your father's content, so when he touches his picture, there's video clips of the grandkids, there's the newspaper that he likes to read, there's the spirituality that he likes, there's the music that he likes, and it's all delivered in a way that would be appropriate for where he is cognitively. And again, it has nothing to do with how old you are. I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. When I turn 86, I'm not going to become a Carpenters fan. It's just, but you're going to have to deal with sight issues or hearing issues, whatever it may be. So we just try to have this whole content experience that then is accentuated with tools that help whatever other physical issues people would be going through.
So it's up to the family members to personalize the experience for them, and if that's the case, then what happens to people who don't have family?
Yeah, well, it's really, there's all kinds of generic content that is just accessible. You touch a history icon, you go through all kinds of history. You touch a spiritual icon. But to really deliver an individual experience, you do like to have what's relevant for that person. So in the case where there's not families available, we've had great programs with intergenerational volunteers coming in for high school doing their community service hours. A lot of times the staff will get involved in individualization, because you find it's just kind of common sense that especially folks dealing with some kind of cognitive decline, if they're starting to get agitated, or you see something that's coming, to be able to get them the music that they like, to get them what's meaningful for them. So it's worth a little bit of that labor on the front end, so that when things may happen, you can help make their day a little better on the back end.
I understand there's also a physical fitness component to this. How does that tie in?
Yeah, well, it's I guess I would say there's a therapy component to it. We've kind of built the company as a very robust activity tool. And as the years have gone by, it's evolved to be very relevant in a therapy environment with the speech, physical, and occupational therapists. We've got a virtual bike, we've got a driving simulator, things that involve physical activity, but all kinds of things relevant for a speech pathologist or an occupational therapist to be able to get people with different kinds of brain fitness, different kinds. Again, it's all just going back to engagement. And the research study that I think we had sent some information about, that it was nice to have validated data from Penn State showing that people living with dementia that were normally kind of averse to therapy, that if they enjoyed it, and again, it's pretty much common sense, but if they enjoy that therapy experience, they'll come back more to do it, and they'll stay there longer when they're doing it. So to me, that it's been 20 years of that being kind of common sense, but it was nice to have some validation to it from an independent, prestigious university.
So help me get the picture of this. Someone's in a big community with 500 people, and every single person has their own touch screen, and every single person has their own, wheels for their. I mean, how does this all work in terms of doing therapy?
No, that's a great question because it could be confusing. So it's a group experience in either a 60 or 70-inch touchscreen television that it can also be in a 23-inch system on a portable cart that goes around, or it can be in a tablet. So a lot of times the tablet is the more individualized experience, either for one person or maybe 4 or 5 people, whereas the big TV, it can have that individual experience, but a lot of times that's used more for just any kinds of engagement. And again, to one person, it may be going up to a 70-inch touchscreen and popping bubbles as a therapeutic intervention, and to somebody else, it's watching a priest saying the rosary, or what a rabbi. And we got so, as the years go by, we become a content company as much as anything else. And so again, what matters for every person is different, and we're just trying to make it for either the staff driving the program or the resident themselves to be able to just get to what they want.
Are there any plans to bring this into private homes so people can do this individually who are not part of a community?
Not so much that we would market directly to that person, but we have so many of our customers are tiptoeing into home and community-based services that what we're putting together is, and primarily through a tablet, is the ability for them to brand the device to look like their particular one of their offerings, and then have that go to the person's home and integrate both content. So many people are living with a spouse that may be in different places cognitively, to kind of integrate the content that may be relevant for that one person living with dementia. But then we have Teepa Snow content. We have all kinds of caregiving content that could be relevant for the person that is helping with them. So like I said, as the years go by, we become a content company as much as anything else.
So how much does this cost? Obviously, if you're in a community, I'm assuming the community covers it. It's part of their offerings. But if you were to bring it into the home, and there are multiple people using it, like the caregiver and the needy person, what happens then?
Right. Well, again, we don't really have the defined at-home model yet, but the price of what we're providing in a community for the hardware itself could be $3,000 to $12,000, depending on the configuration. A tablet's a few $100 in a $30 a month subscription or $35 a month subscription that doesn't have all of the group content, but the larger system and the group activity. So the hardware, a couple $100 a month, and we have one of the things that's been phenomenal as a company is we have about a 97.5% retention rate of people paying the subscription every month. That over 75% is non-contractual. They're getting the value and they're paying for it because if you're an activity director or a therapist, you don't have to go look for content. It's all vetted, it's all there, and you're able to just at a touch be able to get to whatever's relevant for either that group or that individual environment.
So I think I understand you to be saying right now the people who use it individually as subscribers are the professionals, and that you're thinking of having it going out into the homes of the actual users through the communities? It's
good question. It can be used for the person, but it's just they're within the walls of the community. So we have many individuals with their own tablet that's got their own content, but they're living inside the community. Where the tiptoe out will be really that same kind of device, but having it go out to people in the community at large. So it's usually the group systems are more for the group, and then the tablets are more for either an individual or maybe 4 to 5 individuals that could be on one device that can be easily shared and taken from room to room.
So there are people in communities who are paying the subscription fee in addition to what the community is offering.
Usually the families. Usually it's the families more, because a lot of the where we've had our most dramatic success has been people living with dementia, and it's astounding to me to see. It's very rewarding, frankly, to see people far down a cognitive decline path that all of a sudden seeing things that are relevant to them become completely different, really just become who they are. It's very cool to see, and that's what a lot of times the traditional program in a community is somewhat antiquated, and we're not replacing the person, we're just giving them a tool that's much more meaningful for the person in the community.
Because you can really personalize the experience from the family, right? Right. So you've been in this business for 20 years. You were among the first, as you say, to jump in. What kind of changes have you seen both in the services being provided to older adults and in who the older adults of today are?
Yeah, I think that when we started the company, there was it's kind of analogous to when my career before December Slate is I was in the Silicon Valley in the semiconductor world, and in the 80s, when kind of the computing revolution first started, it was all about mainframes talking to each other, and the government and libraries and the Digital Equipment Corporation and IBM. They would laugh at the idea of a computer in a person's home, and then look what's happened. And to me, it's very analogous over the last 20 years is that technology, as it's tiptoed into senior living, has very much been looked at as an operational, functional medical record tool. And there really hasn't been that much that, what makes that person's life better. And so 20 years ago, people thought we were crazy that anybody living with dementia was going to have any need for technology. And now it's becoming more of, I just think of myself that both my parents are gone, but if I would have been choosing a community for mom or dad, if they were at a place cognitively where they couldn't make that decision themselves, to me, I could care less what somebody's furniture looked like. So it would be, how would you keep dad connected to the Nebraska Cornhuskers? And how do you have mom saying the rosary every day? I mean, that would be much more meaningful for me than aesthetics. And what we've seen over the last 20 years is just the concept of what we're doing is very much been, it's just not the novelty anymore. People are very much interested in that. And secondly, just the technology. I mean, who would have thought if it wasn't for remote tech support, we wouldn't have a company. That wasn't around 20 years ago. So just the amount of content you can get, the price points, the flexibility. When you look back at what we were selling, I cringe when I look at it, the stuff we were selling 20 years ago, because it was just kludging together all this stuff that wasn't designed to be connected. And now you have all this integration of touch screens and things that have made it so much different. So I think there's been a huge technology change, and there's been a huge mindset change, and those have both played very well for us.
Congratulations on your success, and I wish you much more of it in the future. Thank you all for joining us.